very steep, in fact the steepest in the world, up to 50% on Indian exports to the United States. As of last year, India exported over $87 billion of merchandise goods to the US. Now, over 50% of that $87 billion unfortunately stands to be tariffed at 50% or more. New Delhi has called this move unfair and unjustified. While China and Europe continue similar trade without any penalties, India's finance ministry has warned of long-term impacts and urgent talks that are required to try and nudge the principles towards moving towards some kind of a trade arrangement. At the same time, India is also looking at diversifying its markets. Remember, at the end of the day, India's exports to the US are under a fifth, under 20%. Some labor-intensive sectors like textiles, gems and jewelry, leather, footwear, textiles and apparel, all of this will get affected disproportionately. But overall, the need of the hour is for the Indian export basket to be more diversified away from the United States. Sources in the government say that there is going to be the launch of an outreach program, particularly in key sectors that will be affected, textiles being one of them, to try and counter the blow, to try and cushion the blow of the Trump-imposed tariffs, while at the same time also extending the import duty exemption on cotton until the end of this year, until the 31st of December 2025. Meanwhile, it's not like the Trump decision and the decision by the Trump administration to impose 50% tariffs on a country that is friendly, a strategic partner, a partnership that's been built over the last 2.5 decades. The US House Democrats from the Foreign Affairs Committee, which is an influential committee, has oversight over foreign policy decisions. They have come out and slammed Donald Trump for singling out India over buying Russian oil. They say that it hurts Americans, it sabotages the US-India relationship.
This is Kamalika from CNN News 18. My question is, since Australia does not believe in such tariffs, how Australia is dealing with the US tariff thing, and how Australia sees the recent tariff war that is going between India and US?
Yeah, look, we're a country that believes in free and fair trade. We believe that the best way of ensuring prosperity for our workers and our country is to continue with free, fair and open trade. So we don't support the imposition of tariffs, whether they be on Australia or India. Obviously, your relationship with the United States is something for you to work through. But only this week I've met with officials of the United States government to make it clear that our view that the 10% tariff that they've imposed on Australia is not the right way to go, and that we will continue to push our argument that the American government should remove those tariffs.
But the Trump administration doesn't seem to be taking the foot off the pedal in terms of trying to put pressure on India on what it perceives as India buying Russian oil and thereby contributing to Putin's war machine. India has, of course, completely rejected that. In fact, the foreign minister has said that the framing of this as an oil issue is completely wrong. But the Trump administration doesn't seem to be letting go of, at least not as quickly. In fact, Donald Trump's close aide and senior trade representative, Peter Navarro, has made a stunning remark as far as the Ukraine war is concerned, calling it Modi's war, alleging that India's import of Russian oil is fueling Moscow's aggression and it is burdening US taxpayers. He's even suggested a 25% tariff cut if India were to stop buying Russian oil, adding that the path to peace in Ukraine runs through New Delhi. Navarro also took aim at Delhi's ties with Beijing, warning India that getting in bed with authoritarians is not going to help India. He also reminded that China was the one that invaded Aksai Chin and other Indian territories, and hence they are not exactly India's friends. Let's listen in to the outspoken Peter Navarro.
Look, it's real easy. India can get 25% off tomorrow if it stops buying Russian oil and helping to feed the war machine.
Not sending that signal.
They're not. And look, here's the thing. I'm puzzled, okay? Because Modi's a great leader. These people this is a mature democracy with intelligent people running it. And they look us bald-faced in the eye on the tariff part and say, we don't have the highest tariffs in the world, when in fact they do. There's no dispute about that if you look at the numbers. When India buys Russian oil at a discount, and then Indian refiners in partnership in India with Russian refiners make that and sell it at a premium to the rest of the world, right? Russia uses the money it gets to fund its war machine, kill more Ukrainians, and then the next thing that happens, of course, is Ukraine comes to us and Europe and says, give us some more money. So everybody in America loses because of what India is doing. The consumers and businesses and everything lose, and workers lose because India's high tariffs cost us jobs and factories and income and higher wages. And then the taxpayers lose because we got to fund Modi's war, okay? The road to peace runs at least partly right through New Delhi.
Putin's war?
I mean Modi's
Okay.
war.
Let me ask you
because
this.
the road to peace runs in part through New Delhi. The authoritarians, China, you've been at quiet war with them for decades. They invaded Aksai Chin and all your territory. These are not your friends, folks, okay? And the Russians, I mean, come on.
But it is going to have a series of impacts. Certainly in the short term, there is going to be a lot of pain. We have a series of ground reports from some of our reporters from export hubs, places like Surat, Ludhiana, Tirupur, Delhi, Gurgaon and Noida. These are going to be some of the worst affected places because these are export-dependent textile hubs or gems and jewelry hubs, leather export destinations. These are particularly badly affected because they are dependent on exports to the United States in many of these sectors. They're also very labor-intensive, whether they happen to be apparel and textiles. 30% of India's textile exports go to the US. Same is the case with gems and jewelry. Over $10 billion now under jeopardy. There's also leather exports. So we've sent out our reporters to a series of these export hubs to try and get a sense of what the feeling on the ground is, whether orders have been halted, whether exports currently have been put on pause, and what the hope there really is. Will they find diversified markets, or Prime Minister Modi is attending the SCO summit, which is being hosted by China this year in the northern city of Tianjin, just about an hour's drive away from the capital, Beijing. So what is the SCO and why is Prime Minister Modi attending this summit? The Shanghai Cooperation Organization is a major Eurasian intergovernmental body. Its focus is on political, economic, and security cooperation. The SCO was founded back in June of 2001, essentially by China and Russia, along with the 5 Central Asian republics, that's Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan. It evolved from the earlier format. It was called the Shanghai 5, which dates all the way back to 1996. It got formalized at a summit-level understanding in 2001. The SCO seeks to bolster mutual trust, regional stability, counterterrorism, and promote development under the ethos of the Shanghai spirit. Now, originally, it was thought to be a security-centered multi-alignment platform, but now the SCO has expanded to economic, cultural, and infrastructure cooperation. India joined the Shanghai Cooperation Organization as a full member in 2017, along with Pakistan. But initially, both India and Pakistan had become observer countries in 2005. Once India and Pakistan joined in 2017, this highlighted a significant shift in the SCO's reach as well as geopolitical weight. So it was no longer just China, Russia, and the 5 Central Asian republics. It now expanded to a large part of South Asia. So why is India joining and part of what is essentially seen as an alliance led by China? That's a fair question to ask. Now, here's what is in it for India. India's participation in the SCO offers it the following strategic benefits. Number one, it is a platform which helps it engage with Central Asian countries, their resources, their key markets. Central Asia has vast energy reserves, and the chance for India to develop overland connectivity. This is a huge economic driver for India. India has been talking about the North-South Trans Corridor, as it's called, which will basically give it overland access bypassing Pakistan through Afghanistan, Iran, and then into the Central Asian republics. This is something that India has been talking about and developing for the last 20 years. So the SCO serves as an important platform for that. It also gives, very crucially, India access to what is called the Regional Anti-Terrorist Structure, or RATS. RATS is a mechanism that's been designed by China and Russia and the Central Asian republics, primarily for security cooperation and for anti-terror operations. The SCO has this Regional Anti-Terrorism Structure, RATS, which offers India counterterrorism cooperation as well as intelligence sharing, which is crucial because India has been a victim of terrorism emanating primarily from Pakistan, but also from Afghanistan. The SCO also offers a platform for strategic autonomy. India does not want to be seen as an ally of the United States or in the Western Bloc, therefore being part of an alliance which has China and Russia in the room when these conversations are happening. It is a demonstrable platform for India to demonstrate its strategic autonomy. It also helps India balance amongst the great power competition that is going on between China and the United States. There is also a chance to try and temper some of the more extremist influences, given Pakistan is also a member of the SCO. The SCO also creates new areas of cooperation as far as India is concerned. India's priority areas, whether it is startups, traditional medicine, youth empowerment, digital inclusion. It gives India to shape some of these narratives in a platform which has China and Russia, some of the biggest powers in the world. Despite the criticism that the SCO is seen by the West as a vehicle primarily for China and Chinese interests, India has leveraged the SCO to assert its independent foreign policy as well as further regional engagement. By engaging within the SCO, India maintains a platform to try and balance out China's ambitions and also prevent diplomatic isolation. Remember, all other SCO members and some of the observer members as well, who've not become full-fledged members up until now, the likes of Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, etc., they all support Chinese projects, infrastructure projects like the Belt and Road Initiative. India has not supported the BRI for its own sovereignty concerns. Now, while the West often sees the SCO as a conduit for Chinese influence, particularly given China's economic heft and also the billions of dollars it's spending on the BRI, India's choice to participate in the SCO reflects a pragmatic, multi-vector foreign policy. India uses its presence in the SCO to project itself as an independent actor with deep ties both to East and to West. However, on issues like terrorism, which is a core concern for India, China has often refused to condemn Pakistan and Pakistan-originated terror directed at India at various SCO fora in the past. The latest one was back in June when Defense Minister Rajnath Singh was in Shanghai for the Defense Ministers' SCO meeting, and Pakistan and China refused to mention the recent Pahalgam terrorist attack. Rajnath Singh and India thereof refused to sign the joint statement that emanated from the Defense Ministers' meeting. After the 2020 Galwan Valley border clash between India and China, which resulted in casualties on both sides, it triggered a prolonged standoff. In fact, India-China relations hit a historic low over those 5 years from 2020 up until the fall of 2024. Multiple rounds of military-to-military dialogue, dialogue between the diplomats, and finally, it culminated in a stepwise de-escalation. That de-escalation was agreed to on the sidelines of last year's SCO summit, which was hosted in Kazan, Russia. That's where Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping agreed that the first step would be to de-escalate. There are still 50,000 troops from both sides that are in a standoff position on either side of the line of actual control, but they have de-escalated from October 2024 onwards. Both countries also began re-engaging. They resolved some of the patrolling arrangements which were in place before the 2020 Galwan clashes. They've also resumed direct flights, tourist visas for both Indian and Chinese tourists, as well as cultural exchanges. They've also agreed to stabilize the line of actual control and resume limited economic and people-to-people interactions. Prime Minister Modi is returning to China for the first time since 2018, where he will be taking part in the SCO summit from the 31st of August to the 1st of September. It reflects both a degree of necessity. Remember, both India and China are big powers in the Indo-Pacific. their economies are entangled, their border is entangled as well, and there is also a degree of strategic calculation. India has to use dialogue and multilateral platforms like the SCO to try and manage the internal conflicts and competition that it has with China. Both leaders, in fact, resolved in Kazan last year that they cannot allow differences to become disputes and they cannot allow competition to become conflict. But there is a big elephant in the room as far as this year's SCO is concerned, and that is US President Donald Trump and his aggressive trade posture and tariffs, which has profoundly impacted India's trade as well as its diplomatic engagements. The US imposed tariffs up to 50% on Indian exports, largely aimed at curbing India's import of Russian crude oil. This is the highest tariff on any country in the world. India feels it is unfairly being singled out for importing Russian oil, even though China imports more Russian oil. This has strained long-standing ties between Delhi and Washington, and it has also threatened cooperation within Quad. Remember, India is the host of the Quad summit later this year, and if the summit were to happen, then President Donald Trump will have to travel to India. So far, there is no confirmation that the summit will happen itself. As a consequence of this blow-up in the trade arena because of the Trump-imposed tariffs, as a consequence of that, India is now forced to turn closer towards both China and Russia. It is engaging much more deeply in both SCO as well as BRICS. In fact, India will be the host of BRICS next year, when India will have to play host both to Xi Jinping as well as to Vladimir Putin of Russia. Analysts note that Trump's strategy of pushing India on the tariff issue may have backfired, unintentionally or maybe intentionally pushing India into the corner of Russia and China, and thereby strengthening BRICS as well as encouraging the global south to coordinate more closely. In response, India is pursuing a policy of diversification on the one hand, moving towards China and Russia, but with caveats attached, and also signaling defiance to Trump and his tariffs. India is trying to bring a degree of balance between its Western ties and Eurasian groupings like the SCO and BRICS. And this weekend, you will see more evidence of that play itself out in Tianjin. All right, so what does India now have to do? The 50% tariffs are a reality, 25% reciprocal tariffs, 25% what they're called as oil tariffs. India, of course, feels it's unfair, it's unjustified because India is the only country that's being singled out. But here's the rub of the truth, and that is that these tariffs are a reality, and they're going to be around for a while before maybe Donald Trump and the Trump administration see reason. But how do we deal with this? Is this a wake-up call for Indian industry, for Indian exporters in particular, and can India make this into some kind of a 1991 moment, if you will? I'm joined and I'm coming to you from the Vijay Chowk, overseeing some of the biggest sort of power houses, as it were. These are where the ministries are housed, and they're all trying to figure out what is the best foot forward, what is the best possible response to the Trump tariffs. I'm now joined with me, Mr. Ajay Srivastav is the founder of the Global Trade Research Initiative, and joining us from Mumbai is one of corporate India's well-known faces. Sunil Alag is Chairman and Managing Director of SK Advisors. Srivastav, let me start with you first. You've written a detailed sort of paper, we read about it yesterday, about what are the sectors that are going to be affected, the labor-intensive sectors like textiles and apparel, leather, gems and jewelry, etc. This is now a reality. This is something that India and Indian exporters have to live with. What are some of the mitigating avenues available? How can India sort of mitigate for the sectors that are most affected the effects of these Trump tariffs?
So, different firms are trying different strategies. For example, the largest firms, they are most flexible. For example, some of the garment firms, they have production units in Bangladesh, Vietnam, and South Korea. So they will be using these locations for making their goods and exporting to the US. Some of them, they are shifting, for example, diamond processors, they will be shifting to Antwerp. Some, they are talking about shifting their labor force artisans to, say, UAE, Fujairah, and doing the cutting and polishing and exporting from there. Others, for example, global big buyers, they are saying, suppose they are buying from India, Bangladesh and Vietnam, all the three locations. They are saying, India, okay, till yesterday you were supplying for our EU market, US market and other markets. Now you focus only on EU markets. I'll be asking Bangladesh, which was also supplying to all the three markets, to focus on US markets. So this is also being talked. So this is about the big firms. They have certain more options about this. The smaller firms, people who are making bland products, they are in trouble. But when I talk to certain people, like some pump manufacturer is there, he says, I spoke to my buyer in the US and he says, okay, 50% tariff, okay, I'll bear the cost for 3-4 months, then we'll see.
Okay, so they're saying that, okay, let's see, maybe this will go away in 3-4 months, maybe there'll be better sense that prevails. But the idea that some of our smaller manufacturers can diversify their market a little away from the US to maybe Europe, Middle East, Southeast Asia, etc., how easy or difficult is that?
So diversification of markets is very difficult. We talk about this a lot, but it's very difficult. I'll give you one example. For example, China currently is offering 30% straight discount on, say, yarn in African market. They are doing the same thing for European market also. And they are saying, you can pay us back in 3 years. In India, the legal limit is 1 year. We don't have so much, so we can never buy the concessions China is offering. And now, tariff is not imposed only on India. Of course, we are the highest category. It's on everybody. Everybody is searching for the different markets. It's going to be difficult. So people who wants to diversify their product base, for example, in garments, people who are making embroidered products or children products, because the factories require certification, safety certification, they may survive for some time. But others like terry towel, furnishing, they are going to be in tough time.
Sunil, everybody is looking at this and saying that, look, maybe reason will prevail in 3 months down the line. India can still live with the first part of the 25%, which is the reciprocal tariffs. But the second part, which is the oil tariffs, that is something that would make Indian goods very uncompetitive, if you will, in the US markets. Many are also asking, could this spur our industry, whether it's big size industry or medium or small size industry, to take this up as a challenge, to try and diversify their markets, to try and indigenize a lot of their production and even, their selling, sell to the Indian consumers at the end of the day. Do you see this as a 1991 moment, or do you see this is far too challenging, we're far too integrated into the global sort of merchandise system, and therefore we'll find it difficult to sort of mitigate the Trump tariffs?
Look, as far as I'm concerned, the Indian consumption market, the Indian market, is so huge that America and China and India and everyone wants this market. Now, it's Indians who have to now look at it from another point of view altogether. That, look, domestic consumption is the most important. And therefore, before you look at diversifying international markets and before you look at anything, you have to look at domestic consumption. Domestic consumption is the main area in which this will work. And this will not work if you work only in domestic markets where you export and where you actually lie down and you say that, look, now that the exports have gone, we are gone. Look, we cannot say that. And therefore, whether it will be Trump himself has changed every 3 months or every 4 months. Every 5 months he changes. The question is, for 4 months, we have to tighten our belts, whether it's the Indian consumer or the Indian industry or the government. We have to tighten our belts for the first 4 or 5 months. Now, GST is one area where the government is coming up, and therefore the budget is coming up on 1st Feb. And therefore, the direct consumption in India is the most important, as far as I'm concerned.
No, but, the idea, and I'll ask Mr. Srivastav this first, India is not the first country that Trump imposed these very steep tariffs on. He did that with China. I think it went up to almost 145, 150% tariffs, and then they had to climb down because China hit back with the rare earths, the semiconductors, the magnets. So they had leverage. What leverage, if any, does India have to respond to this?
We have a big leverage, as big as the rare earths of China. We don't talk about this, of course. Currently all the US tech firms, they get data from, we are the biggest generator of data after China. China is close for them. Yeah. Suppose we tell US, You are getting most data from us. You are using that to develop your AI tools, and all your other developments are hinging upon this. It is a great leverage for us. We must talk about this.
But Trump has been talking about this digital tax, what used to be called here in India as Google tax, and the government sort of reconsidered it. He's saying that's also an unfair trade practice. Anybody who takes a digital tax, for example, European Union, he's threatening more sort of tariffs on them.
Trump can call anything. Like you rightly said, he imposed tariff of 145% on China, but he had to relent when China talked back with the rare earth thing. So we have to talk it back. Right now, Trump is in good position because nobody is talking back to him. Only China talked back so far to him, and India, of course, India did not sacrifice the way European Union or Japan or Korea sacrificed. I mean, I laud Indian leadership for all those things. So we have a leverage in terms of data. We must develop that and talk to it back. And digital tax, we don't take digital tax. And suppose tomorrow we want to take it because the whole of the world is turning digital. Who is Mr. Trump to decide what we have to do as a sovereign country?
So, Sunil, what we have seen from countries around the world in the way in which they've dealt with these Trump tariffs, there are basically two models. There is the European Union model, Japan, South Korea to some extent, basically go to Trump and say, okay, boss, you do what you have to do, we will bear with the pain. Basically what they call in the US, kiss the ring. And then you have the Chinese model where they stood up to Trump. They matched him tariff for tariff, and finally they had that leverage through the form of rare earths and semiconductors. What is it that India has in terms of leverage? So far, India's position has been a mix of both. You are not, kowtowing to Trump. At the same time, you don't have the leverage that China has in terms of the rare earths. But you're standing up. You're saying that, look, we are not going to, bend over downwards for you. But at the same time, we will stand our ground. We may not have any instruments to hit you back with. Certainly, India is not imposing any retaliatory tariffs against America just yet. But what's stopping India from doing that?
No, look, as far as Mr. Modi is concerned, India comes first. And look, Russian oil, if it comes, we don't buy all the oil from Russia. We buy from the Middle East, we buy from America, we buy from Russia as well. Now, if 25-30% of the Russian oil comes in because of the price, then India comes first. He will then buy from Russia only oil, which is 25 or 30% or 40% of India's market. Look, he's a bully of the first order. Russia stood up in Alaska in the meeting when he tried to get a peace going, and when China stood up. It's about time India stood up. Now, India has got a lot of data, a lot of, as Mr. Srivastava has said, look, all the information that is there, all the information that is there, now we can tax everybody else, because ultimately the American consumer has to pay for Trump. And therefore, when Trump realizes that the American consumer is involved, then he will listen to us. And therefore, we must now put pressure on the American consumer rather than Trump himself.
So when does that sort of come to start? When does that pain, Mr. Srivastava, come to start feeling on the American consumer? Because look, there is a very economic reason why goods are coming from India or China or Bangladesh or Vietnam, because it's cheaper for the American consumer. Now, if it's going to impose these tariffs, then it's going to make it more expensive ultimately for the American consumer. So far, we're not seeing any evidence of it. Do you see that happening 6 months down the line, a year down the line, when the American consumer starts feeling the pain of this?
It will start happening immediately, and reports will be seeing the reports very soon. Very soon, because 27th August is just yesterday, and data takes about 1 month to 40 days time to emerge. And we'll see a lot of videos on the social media of the angry US consumers comparing the old prices with the new prices. Immediately they can see the prices increase by 20%, 30%, 40% for most products. And I don't think Mr. Trump can handle that. Remember, this happened on April 9. On April 2, he imposed high tariffs, and between April 2 and April 9, China and Japan, they sold their treasury bonds, and there was a mayhem in their markets. And that made Trump relent, and he postponed the tariff for 90 days. I think that moment is going to come very soon internally, if not externally.
So you're saying one of the pain points could be if the American markets eventually, the pain of the tariffs, if it's going to be felt in the US capital markets, then that's a language Trump understands and will respond to.
I would like to add one more thing. You were talking about the leverage. We have one great leverage. Trump always talks about trade deficit of $45 billion.
Yes, correct.
American firms earn more than $80 billion from India, from their Indian operations. Indian students, they pay $15 billion worth of tuition fee annually and $10 billion in living expenses. So overall, they earn more than $100 billion from India. We have to talk about that also. That's also a great leverage.
In fact, today I think there's a circular that's out from the US government suggesting that they will relook at visas for students. But Sunil Alag, I'll give you the final word. One area where, slowly murmurs are emerging from the MAGA base, and I think people like Howard Lutnick have been talking about it, Indian and Indian Americans on H-1B visas and on student visas. There's suddenly a lot of noise around it saying, there's a cottage industry running and they're taking advantage of the US system, so on and so forth. Again, do you see that as leverage that India can use against America, or will that again be a pain point? So far, he's not turned his attention to the services. He's focused on manufacturing. But how do we deal with it if the attention now turns to that?
See, we are a country of 1.4 billion, and therefore we suffer pain for about 3 or 4 months. That's not an issue with us. Look, as far as I'm concerned, the Indian consumption market is as important to America as it is to India. And therefore, the consumption market in India itself will raise the issue. Therefore, the tourism, everything has to go up. Now, the employment which is coming from wherever your textiles or gems or jewelry, where the exports have gone up, that doesn't matter because 5% is not a large amount. 20% is on everybody. 25% is on Indians. 5% is the extra pain which we will tolerate.
No, but that's aside of the other 25%, which you're saying will go away in a few months.
Will not. 25% is on the entire area of oil. Now, if we will buy from, it's not that we are buying from Russia alone. The Middle East, when we buy, if he puts another 5% on 25% on the Middle East, on American oil, on European oil, on Russian oil, we don't buy from, but Russians have been our partners, come no matter what it is. Trump is driving us towards China. The geopolitics of it, for 1 or 2 years, we will become close to China itself. And therefore, China, Russia and India together will put pressure on Trump. Now, it's a question of we have to go in with our eyes open in the new geopolitics that is coming up.
All right. Sunil Alag and Mr. Srivastav, thank you very much for joining us on this special broadcast of Brass Tacks coming to you live from New Delhi. It is really a big challenge, no doubt about it, but India has surmounted bigger challenges than this. Look no further than the 1991 debt crisis that we had, the balance of payments crisis. We overcame that, and we are now the 4th largest economy in the world. There's no reason why we can't deal with the immediate and short-term pain of the Trump tariffs.
Moving on Brass Tacks, a 33-second video from the Adhikar rally of the India Bloc in Darbhanga yesterday in Bihar, at which Congress flags were waved, confetti was shot in the air, and party workers on stage were chanting slogans, has now gone viral, and for all the wrong reasons. Congress and RJD workers, led by a local leader of the Grand Old Party, stood on the dais waving party flags and hurling insults at the Prime Minister. While the Congress has now distanced itself, the BJP refuses to back down. With the political discourse now once again hitting rock bottom, like we've seen in several other elections in the past as well, the question remains, will this latest controversy hurt the India bloc in the upcoming Bihar election?
जिसने भी इस तरीके की ये गाली गलौज की है या जो भी किया है, उसकी मैं घोर निंदा करता हूं और मैं माफ़ी मांगता हूं, मैं क्षमा मांगता हूं।
ये सब ध्यान भटकाने की बातें हैं। जवाब दे नहीं पा रहे, इसलिए इस तरह के अनर्गल मुद्दों को उठा रहे हैं, जो कि हमारे यहाँ से हो ही नहीं सकता।
मैंने इससे पहले भी कहा था कि राहुल गांधी का दिमाग चोरी हो गया है। और जब दिमाग चोरी हो जाता है तो इस प्रकार की ओछी बातें लोग करते हैं।
मुझको आश्चर्य लगता है, देश के प्रधानमंत्री के बारे में आप अपमानजनक शब्दों का इस्तेमाल करिए, गाली गलौज की भाषा का इस्तेमाल करिए। ये लोकतंत्र है क्या?
Let's open this up. Tuhin Sinha, national spokesperson of the BJP, is with us. Pooja Tripathi, spokesperson of the Congress, joins us as well. Pooja Tripathi, why does the Congress say that this is a diversionary tactic? Your local leader who was present there has acknowledged that, yes, indeed, this happened. Some insults were hurled at the Prime Minister and his mother, and he apologized for it.
Exactly. The local Karyakarta of Bihar Congress, he apologized for it. He profusely apologized, and he also said that somebody got on the stage, he was slapped when he said so. Mic was snatched away, and he has apologized. And let me tell you, the buck doesn't stop there. There would be some action. There would be definitely be an action against the said Karyakarta too. And so that's why, the way the whole Vote Adhikar Yatra is gaining popularity, the way the whole Vote Adhikar Yatra is, attracting masses, I think it's just a diversionary tactic. And here I want to, turn the tables on, and I want to this Karyakarta apologize, as his Prime Minister's Modi's mother is similar to our mother and similar to Rahul Gandhi's mother, Prime Minister Modi. Very unceremoniously in his political speeches is called him Jersey guy. कांग्रेस की विधवा जो पैसा ले जाती है, इनकी जो सबसे बड़ी विधवा है वो चुनाव नहीं लड़ेगी, वो भाग जाएगी. So this is our Karyakarta apologizing, and I'm assuring you that there will be some action too, and it's on the party organization to decide. But the problem here is, when we come to decency, when we come to dignity, when we come to decorum in politics, I think Bharatiya Janata Party should stay shut, and that's what I want to remind them. And I'm not saying that two wrongs make a right, but nobody from their party would apologize, would come in front and apologize to, Mrs. Gandhi, to various, ugly comments that have been made in the past. And that's what we are saying, that no action has been taken against Brij Bhushan, no action has been taken against. There's a long list. If I start, the whole show will end there. And that's why when it comes to dignity, decorum, and decency in politics, Bharatiya Janata Party has lowered down the bar so much.
Sure, but it shouldn't be that somebody else does it, so if we do it, that's all right. That shouldn't be the bar, and that shouldn't be where the political discourse go. But Tuhin Sinha, the allegation that the opposition makes is that A, that the local leader has apologized, so that should be good enough, and B, the BJP is no one to give us morality lectures.
Well, good evening. This opposition, this uncouth opposition, does not realize that Bihar is the land of Gautam Buddha, Chanakya, Sita Maiya, where culture and behavior is of paramount importance. The way they have been behaving in the last few days, even the absurd allegations of vote chori, which Rahul Gandhi has not been able to prove. Yesterday, the way he was talking about the Prime Minister in abusive manner, and yesterday only this video came out, where Congress Karyakartas are hurling the most disgusting abuses at Prime Minister's mother, the abuse is so disgusting that, on your channel, you will not be able to explain. So I don't think the Congress party should be, indulging in whataboutery after this despicable behavior. But why are we surprised? Pawan Khera, their media cell head, who was defending the party, is the person who has abused Prime Minister Modi's father. So obviously his Karyakartas are abusing the mother of Prime Minister. And for that, Pawan Khera also had an FIR. He was also arrested for a few hours. These Congress Karyakartas have been issuing death wishes for Prime Minister. Modi teri kabr khudegi. This used to be the campaign slogan in many of the rallies last year. So I think this Congress party, somewhere, is an extremely frustrated Congress party. It has not been able to draw any traction within and with their issues, with their baseless issues. But I think the onus for this behavior lies upon Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi. It was Sonia Gandhi with her Maut Ka Saudagar comment way back in 2007, who, started this, who unleashed this trend of abusing Prime Minister Modi. And I think Congress Karyakartas are basically just carrying that on further.
But Tuhin, the allegation that the Congress and the rest of the opposition makes is that the BJP and BJP's leaders too have been making such unparliamentary comments against opposition leaders. So why is it that it's kosher when the BJP does but not when the opposition does it?
First of all, you need to realize, obviously whoever has made I think, decorum is very important to politics. But the Prime Minister's office is a constitutional office. He's a, Prime Minister of 140 crore people. When you unleash such abuses against the Prime Minister, you are not only insulting the Prime Minister, you are also insulting 50% of the population, all the women in this country. How dare Congress believe that such galis can be normalized in politics? I think that is the larger question. And again, I'm saying, they draw their inspiration for this uncouth behavior from Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi. I'm giving you one example. When the discussion on Rafale deal was happening in Parliament in 2019, we had a lady defense minister, Nirmala Sitharaman, at that point of time. Do you remember what Rahul Gandhi was doing throughout the debate? He was throwing paper planes. He was winking when the discussion was happening. Is that how you treat women? If this is how they behave in Parliament, obviously their karyakartas are getting a wrong message. They feel it is okay to abuse Prime Minister.
I believe we've lost that line with Tuhin Sinha, but I'll come back to you. But Pooja Tripathi, to say the very least, whatever has happened, whether you say that the local leader has apologized and the Congress thinks this is a diversionary tactic, the fact is that this voter adhikar rally and what transpired there has grabbed headlines for all the wrong reasons. Would you agree to that at least? Because nobody is talking about what Rahul Gandhi is saying or what Tejashwi Yadav is saying. Everybody is talking about these slogans that are being raised.
What are the wrong reasons? I am at the voter adhikar yatra and I see thousands and thousands of people thronging the rally. I see thousands and thousands of people coming to attend the rally at 8 a.m. in the morning when the Padyatra starts, at 10 p.m. in the night when the Padyatra stops. I see children, I see women, I see elderly, I see everybody talking about the Food Choria campaign.
Sure,
and this is,
but that's exactly what I'm trying to ask you, that the kind of instance that we've seen at the rally at Darbhanga yesterday, because of which that local leader has apologized now, but the Congress hasn't, and the Congress is only trying to say that this is a diversionary tactic. Does this not do disservice to your campaign?
So it was unfortunate and the leader has apologized, but will the Prime Minister step down from his position and say that, he's sorry for saying Jersey cow, saying Congress ki vidwa, saying sabse badi leader to Mrs. Gandhi? Will the Bharatiya Janata Party Bihar, we are talking about the Bihar elections here, now will the Bharatiya Janata Party Bihar official handle, he called all the opposition leaders including LOP, just now Tuhin was talking about the constitutional position, including Tejasvi Yadav, they call him Churhan ka Jund, and I'm sure Tuhin Sinha with his Bihar background, he must be knowing that this is a most deplorable, casteist, misogynist and sexist slur that you can make at a leader. So it's very, it's very hunky-dory, it's very nice when you say that Bharatiya Janata Party, the way the Bharatiya Janata Party has lowered down the decorum, lower down the discussion and lower down the dignity of any post.
But in this instance, it wasn't the BJP that said it. It was somebody from within the Congress that did it.
Exactly, and we are sorry for it. And
but only the local leader is. The rest of the Congress is not. The Congress hasn't officially come out and said that we apologize and that action will be taken. In fact, the Congress officially came out and said this is just a diversionary tactic. ये हमारे यहाँ हो ही नहीं सकता.
I am assuring you, Poonam, that an action will be taken. But let us go back some time back, a year or so. They have not yet taken any action against Brij Bhushan. They have, they have completely sided away from Prajal Ravenna. Nobody in that party came out and said that we support the women. When it comes to Prime Minister Modi, and Prime Minister Modiji's mother is as much, respectable as my mother and Rahul Gandhi's mother and his mother. Everybody's mother should be respected, and a woman should not be respected just because she's a mother. Woman deserves all the respect. But they have not taken any respect for the sake of the 50% women that vote for you. You should have come out and thrown Prajal Ravenna. You should have at least did a press conference. Sambit Patra should have done a press conference on Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh. They should have done a press conference on Prajal Ravenna, but they have not. They have completely sided away. They have completely stayed silent. So, this politics of opportunism, when it comes to Prime Minister, starting from everybody, it should be condemned.
Sure. So, Tuhin Sinha, this is just politics of opportunism for the BJP and its allies. Do you think this is going to reap dividends in the Bihar election?
Can the Congress spokesperson explain what was shouted from the podium of that Congress rally? Can she explain to the audience? She would not be able to explain. That is how shameful, that is how embarrassing those words are. So please don't indulge in this whataboutery. Please don't indulge in this whataboutery. You should have sacked Naushad, the organizer, till now. You have not sacked that person, which only, and your leader Pawan Khera is defending it. He says, we are deflecting attention. If this is what you are going to normalize in Bihar elections, the people of Bihar are going to punish you in a way that you would never have imagined. They are going to punish you in a way that you would not imagine. But I think, the larger issue is this Congress party, as you have seen on your show also, as you have seen from the comments of Pawan Khera, is absolutely brazen. It's absolutely defiant. Their spokespersons like Supriya Srinath and Shama Mohammed have to be groomed every day on TV, have to be told not to shout at anchors and not to abuse other party representatives. This is the condition of this Congress party.
Pooja Tripathi, as far as the Congress's track record goes, every time such personal insults were made against the Prime Minister, the BJP has only come back stronger electorally. And this is to do with every comment that was made right before an election. Beginning from the Maut Ka Saudagar comment that was made in Gujarat by Sonia Gandhi, ever since then we've seen the kind of results that have come in the other party's favour and not in the Congress's favour.
So do you say that, we should stop asking them questions, we should stop pointing out their...
Absolutely not. I didn't say that. I didn't say asking questions didn't reap you dividends.
Is the respect of women equal to winning or losing the elections? Is taking a stand for the female athletes of the country, who's brought Lawrence to the country, is akin to winning the elections?
That's not what I said. That's what you are saying.
800 to 900 women who were brutally raped and videographed by Prachanda Vandana is akin to winning or losing elections.
That's not what I said. That's what you are saying.
We can get away with any elections, but when it comes to the respect of women, when it comes to the dignity of women, we will question them because they're frontline leaders.
Please do. But when you're raising those questions, there is some amount of language decorum that needs to be maintained. In the past, Congress leaders have not.
DNA, RJD spokesperson is not here to defend themselves, but their ally Nitish Kumar at the floor of the Vidhan Sabha has said, "Hey, तुझे कुछ नहीं आता, तू तो ऐसे मुख्यमंत्री बन गई." To Rabri Devi, the ex-CM of the first women chief minister of Bihar, she said, "तेरा पति party चलाता है तो तू मुख्यमंत्री बन गई." This is the language of their principal ally Nitish Kumar to an ex-CM of Bihar, Rabri Devi ji. And this when we talk about decorum and when we talk about dignity, nobody has a finger, nobody has this audacity to say, "Hey, tujhe kuch nahi aata," to me or to any women in the country. And that's their DNA. That's their DNA of, insulting women, of always treating women as second citizens. And when it comes to Prime Minister Modi ji, everybody jumps to the gun and everybody says, "Unki maa ka apman hua," which I have aptly cleared that, an action would be taken. And even Mr. Nashad also didn't say this. There was somebody random person who went on stage and said it, and he's profusely apologized. He said he was slapped, and there's a video of people slapping him, people snatching away the mic. But has somebody the guts to snatch away mic from Modi ji? Has somebody guts to snatch away the mic from somebody who says Ramzada, Aramzada?
Sure. Unfortunately, it's all come down to whataboutery, as it always does. That if one side doesn't, why not the other? We do hope that some action is taken against this particular party leader, because the last we heard, he was still travelling with Rahul Gandhi on that voter Adhikar Yatra that the India Bloc is on. But unfortunately, I'm completely out of time. I thank you both for joining us here on this edition of Brass Tacks.
All right, I want to bring you up to speed with another story that developed here in New Delhi today. The Sarsang Chalak of the RSS, Mr. Mohan Bhagwat, had a 3-day sort of event here in Delhi. It's the first time he's come here in almost 7 years and had this kind of a public interaction. Today he had an hour-long press conference with journalists taking various questions. Here are some excerpts of what he said, because this will have a bearing going forward, both on politics as well as trade. He's talked about how international trade should happen without any pressure. But let's listen into some excerpts from that press conference by Mr. Mohan Bhagwat.
Should Indian leaders retire at 75 and why? Bhagwat ji recently said that once you turn 75 and someone puts a shawl on your shoulder, one should retire. Many think this was a reference to Prime Minister Narendra Modi to retire at 75 years. What are your comments? इसी श्रृंखला में अंतिम है। कुछ समय पूर्व आपने मोरोपंत पिंगले जी के कथन का हवाला देते हुए कहा था कि 75 सालगिरह पर शाल पहनने का मतलब है अब आपकी उम्र आ गई है। क्या आप संन्यास की तरफ इशारा किया गया है? क्या 5 वर्ष के लिए चुने गए व्यक्ति पर भी 75 वर्ष की परंपरा लागू होती है?
75 साल की बात है तो मोरोपंत जी को मैंने कोट किया, वो बड़े मजाकी आदमी थे. He was so witty that his witticisms made you bounce in your chair or your line, and it was very difficult to maintain the dressing. So once in our program, we all were there, all India Karyakartas, and he completed his 70 years. So our Sarkar Vivaha Sheshadri ji, he gave him a shawl and asked him to say something. He was saying, no, there is no need to buy. This shawl also is not needed. But then he stood up and he said, you see, you might be feeling that you have felicitated me, but I know that when this shawl is given, it means that now your age is over. You please sit in a chair calmly and see what happens. ऐसा वो विटिसिज्म है उनका. उनके चरित्र का, his biography was inaugurated in Nagpur in English, and I was speaking there. I cited how witty he was. 3 or 4 incidences I told there. And Nagpur people have also seen him very closely, so they were enjoying it. I never said that I will retire or someone should retire. In Sangha, we Swayam Sevaks. We are given a job, whether we want it or not. So, if I am 80 years old, and Sangha will tell me, go, run a shaka, I will have to go. I cannot say I have completed 75 years, I want to enjoy the retirement benefits. No, there is no benefit in Sangha. And even if I am 35, Sangha may say, you sit in the office. We do whatever Sangha tells us. We don't say, I will do this, I want that. No, that is not allowed. So, this is not for retirement of anybody or myself. We are ready to retire any time in the life, and we are ready to work as long as Sangha wants us to work.
Thank you for tuning in to Brass Tacks from the CNN News 18 Primetime Studio, presented by Schneider Electric Smart Home Solutions.
In another world.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Right now, is there a potential for a deal to change that number?
Look, it's real easy. India can get 25% off tomorrow if it stops buying Russian oil and helping to feed the war machine.
Not sending that signal.
They're not. And look, here's the thing. I'm puzzled, okay? Because Modi's a great leader. These people this is a mature democracy with intelligent people running it. And they look us bald-faced in the eye on the tariff part and say, we don't have the highest tariffs in the world, when in fact they do. There's no dispute about that if you look at the numbers. And then they say, we're not going to stop buying Russian oil. Now, what does that mean? I mean, we've talked about this, but it's worth talking to your viewers again. When India buys Russian oil at a discount, and then Indian refiners in partnership in India with Russian refiners make that and sell it at a premium to the rest of the world, right? Russia uses the money it gets to fund its war machine, kill more Ukrainians. And then the next thing that happens, of course, is Ukraine comes to us and Europe and says, give us some more money. So everybody in America loses because of what India is doing. The consumers and businesses and everything lose, and workers lose because India's high tariffs cost us jobs and factories and income and higher wages. And then the taxpayers lose because we got to fund Modi's war, okay? The road to peace runs at least partly right through New Delhi.
War?
I mean Modi's war.
Let me ask
because the road to peace runs in part through New Delhi.
Now, going back to my colleague Siddhant, Siddhant, it seems to be confusion there. We just heard Peter Navarro's statement there. Earlier, of course, we were listening to the US, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent saying something else. He was saying that, India and US will come together eventually. He was showing that optimism in that. And now you have Peter Navarro going completely opposite to it, calling it Modi's war.
Well, that's right. So as we were discussing before, Arun, that they are frustrated because they couldn't stop the war. There have been a lot of efforts given by President Trump to bring President Putin to the tables and, to get a ceasefire or to get the war stopped, but he couldn't. So now what they're doing is, and also they're not liking the fact that India is withstanding its ground. India is not stuck up to the demands of the administration by opening the markets for the agri and dairy products. Perhaps that's what they have been asking for. So, it's kind of a double frustration. One, they couldn't stop the war in Ukraine, and the second, they couldn't get from India what they were expecting. And in fact, as you rightly said, yesterday Scott Bessent also said that India came early. We were expecting deal with India by May or June, but it couldn't happen. But Scott Bessent was measured for what he said yesterday, and in fact, he said that India is largest democracy. We are the largest economy. Perhaps one day we will come together. So but what Peter Navarro has said, perhaps calling it a Modi war, I expect that there's going to be a very sharp reaction coming from New Delhi on this statement of Peter Navarro calling Ukraine conflict and Modi's war, because the fact is that China is still buying Russian crude. Europe has been buying Russian crude and energy from last 3 years. Since last December, there was an agreement, and the gas was being supplied, and it was Russia that was paying Ukraine to use the gas pipeline. The United States itself has been importing a lot of things from Russia. Then why only targeting India being targeted? Why only going after India? Perhaps this is something which, in fact, everybody is asking, Arun, at this point in time. In fact, the House Foreign Affairs Committee also came up with a statement, and it says that instead of imposing sanctions on China or others purchasing large amount of Russian oil, Trump's singling out India with tariffs, hurting Americans and sabotaging the US-India relationship in the process. So as I said, there's double frustration. One, they couldn't get a deal with India because India has not succumbed to their demand. And the second, they couldn't stop the war in Ukraine, despite so much effort given by President Trump. Also very important to highlight, Arun, they are blaming India to fund Russia's war against Ukraine. At the same time, ahead of the meeting in Alaska, Russia and America discussed energy. In fact, they discussed investments in each other's country. Perhaps, when they invest in Russia, that should not be the problem. But if India buys crude from Russia, that should be the problem. Perhaps it's a double standard of the Trump administration.
Yes, absolutely. And it's a very outrageous statement coming from the Trump's advisor, calling it Modi's war. Perhaps we'll be waiting for a response from the Ministry of External side to this statement. Thank you.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Right now, is there a potential for a deal to change that number?
Look, it's real easy. India can get 25% off tomorrow if it stops buying Russian oil and helping to feed the war machine.
Not sending that signal.
They're not. And look, here's the thing. I'm puzzled, okay, because Modi's a great leader. These people this is a mature democracy with intelligent people running it. And they look us bald-faced in the eye on the tariff part and say, we don't have the highest tariffs in the world, when in fact they do. There's no dispute about that if you look at the numbers. And then they say, we're not going to stop buying Russian oil. Now, what does that mean? I mean, we've talked about this, but it's worth talking to your viewers again. When India buys Russian oil at a discount, and then Indian refiners, in partnership in India with Russian refiners, make that and sell it at a premium to the rest of the world, right? Russia uses the money it gets to fund its war machine, kill more Ukrainians, and then the next thing that happens, of course...
News 18 Primetime Studio, presented by Schneider Electric Smart Home Solutions.
We're live from the CNN News 18 Primetime Studio, presented by Schneider Electric Smart Home Solutions. Viewers, we're beginning tonight on a very interesting note, and a note that is also a little unfortunate, because it tells you that while India is a dignified, mature democracy, the world's oldest democracy is going through throes of absolute moral dissolution. Days after imposing a 25% additional or secondary sanction on India for doing business with Russia, Team Trump has ratcheted up the rhetoric in a highly provocative act, viewers, bordering on immaturity.